Could there possibly be a worse PR disaster for the Walt Disney Company than Rachel Zegler? She is a walking, talking catastrophe every time she opens her mouth in regards to Snow White and the Seven Dirty Hippies. The Disney Company, whose headquarters actually feature the seven dwarfs holding up the company as if they are the pillars upon which it is all built, they are deemed to be unworthy of Miss Zegler, and now she says Prince Charming himself, well, he's a stalker. All right, folks, welcome back to another video of excellence here on the WDW Pro channel. We aim to keep you ahead of the culture curve. We do it by explaining entertainment. Sometimes that means that this gets into highly contentious issues, and today, well, it is certain that we are there. To go there, we're going to be stopping by our good friends over at boundingintocomics.com. If you have not yet bookmarked that website, we highly recommend that you do. John F. Trent, who has been on the channel many times, and we hope to have him back on soon, he is the author behind this article we will be reading, and to help me read it is Jonas J. Campbell, investigative reporter for That Park Place. Jonas, welcome back.
Oh, good to be here. It is a great, big, beautiful today, hoping for a great, big, beautiful tomorrow.
That's right. Folks, if you enjoy content like this, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe, click it, stick it to the algorithms. It's the notification bell. Jonas, we are going to do our very best to be as kind and magnanimous as we possibly can be when it comes to this story, and I'm going to explain why. Folks out there are probably ready for us to absolutely unload on Rachel Zegler, who, you know, she just says some things that are very difficult to defend on any level whatsoever. That said, this is a young woman. She is 22 years old, I believe. She was thrust into popularity, into stardom at a young age, and clearly, the Walt Disney Company is not doing the things that they need to do in terms of assisting her with managing the media and the press. I can think back, Jonas, to things I might have said when I was 22, had I had the entire world as a stage, that I would regret today. I hear your laughter, and I think you can agree with that. Fair enough?
Right. I think there's a lot of people that are very thankful that they grew up in the era when social media did not yet exist. But
she is very outspoken, and unfortunately, she's very, very wrong about some things, and we're going to explain why. This is not, I don't think this gets into the level of, well, she has her opinion, you have yours. I think she doesn't understand the story that her movie is inspired from. We would hope. Maybe it's not inspired by it at all. We don't know. But here it is by John F. Trent, coming out actually at the time of recording. We're within minutes of it coming out. Rachel Zegler says Prince stalked Snow White. That's Prince Charming. Says Prince Charming stalked Snow White in the original film. Reveals live action version is really not about the love story at all. Well, this is going to go well. Upcoming Snow White actress Rachel Zegler had some pointed comments about the film when she discussed it back in September 2022 at the D23 Expo, describing what Disney depicted the prince in the original animated movie as a stalker. Zegler shared her comments with Extra TV when she was asked, "I know you told me before that your version of Snow White is different, and it's more of a 2022 version of Snow White. What did you mean by that?" Jonas, before we go any farther, I think it's worth pointing out that this is something that happened in 2022. We're in 2023. It's August. We're 8 months into this. Jonas, real quick, why is this now out there? Why is this trending? Do we understand?
Well, the simple answer is that there's good SEO on it because people are searching for Snow White. The movie was in,
now you're going to have to explain to the audience what SEO means.
Search engine optimization. It means that there's some reward out there for clicks surrounding a particular subject, or it could be that Rachel Zegler's recent comments from the strike have caused people to go digging and look into.
That's what I think's happening, Jonas. Yeah. I think the latter.
And SEO, we can talk about it cynically, which the word cynically is probably going to come up again in this conversation based on some things I'd like to say. If people are talking about a subject, then Google will reward people for talking about that subject and giving them something to advertise against. So there's one way to say it where it sounds like, oh, people are doing this for clicks. Well, people are doing this for clicks because they're talking about it for clicks because people want to talk about it. Barbie had an opposite effect for some of us recently.
What a great point. And yet we
we were-
covered it because we want to be a legitimate news source and cover things fairly. And so we took the hit. We knew we would, but we covered Barbie as fairly as we could.
Right. For as much as we talked about that, we were not rewarded well. In fact, you could even say we were punished monetarily for talking about that.
Right. Well, so and here's the thing, right? So she came out with these statements on the strike. That got her back in the news. And then as a result of her being in the news, people started searching for her. So then these old comments, which had mostly gone unnoticed by normies out there, they start to surface on social media, and then boom, here we're off to the running, I think. And Disney has a new huge catastrophe on their hands. Jonas, before we go any farther, I think we would be well served to just show what she said. Does that sound fair enough?
I think so, because some of the things that she said have been general, and this one I assumed that I understood the basic gist of what she said, but the tone and the demeanor, well, it didn't quite come through in the general comment. So yes, please.
Let's take a look and see what she says.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
Super weird.
So we didn't do that this time. Cast a guy in the movie,
Right.
Andrew Burnap, great dude. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
All right. Well, that's something. Jonas, is Prince Charming from the original movie, is he a stalker, and is there really a love story in Snow White?
Well, we've talked a lot about the charitable way to view things and the non-charitable way to view them. Prince Charming is in Snow White, I think maybe 2 times, maybe 3. He's not in there much. The movie is generally about him. I would say that it does talk about true love's kiss, so we're giving a pass here for the idea that within the story, it is proven by the logic of the story that they are in true love. But yeah, I would say 1937, no.
Right.
But by today's standards, yes, everything is stalking by today's standards.
So let's dive deep for a moment, okay? Let's put aside the true love aspect of it. I'm not sure that the true love aspect is actually part of the original story. That may be part of the Disney story. Of course, that was parodied very successfully by the Shrek franchise. And so I think that did a phenomenal job. I'm not here to say that Snow White is a perfect story or a perfect film. However, the story behind Snow White is, and we've said this before, but we'll add the extra part about the prince to this. The story of Snow White is one of a girl who becomes of age, and therefore she is afraid of both men and women. The woman in particular she's afraid of is the Wicked Queen, who sees Snow White as a threat because Snow White is now of age, younger and more beautiful than the Queen. That's the story. I mean, we could go very deep on that. We're not going to. We're at a cursory glance right now. The sort of metaphysical lesson that you're supposed to take away from Snow White at the end with the prince is that Snow White has to encounter the proper form of masculinity in its best possible representation. That's Prince Charming, right? And okay, let's go deep on that for a moment. Here's a funny thing. The word charming comes from the Latin, and I believe the Latin is related to the Spanish word encantar. Any of those of you out there who know encantar know that that's related to the word encanto. Encanto means enchanted, right? Prince Charming is literally that which enchants. Okay, he is the masculine figure who enchants those around him. He is the best form to the point that he inspires awe. And perhaps the best form of masculinity should do that. Perhaps the best form of femininity should do that. It's certainly true that beautiful and kind women, when they are in the presence of a single man, can leave him speechless, right?
Right,
We've
of
all
course.
seen that before, where he stutters and can't ask her out on a date, and so fair
Well,
enough. And women the same.
I mean, if we're looking at the original, she's literally sitting there at the well singing "I'm Wishing." She is literally wishing magically at this well for the one she loves to find her today, and then of course he comes in with the today, right there in that exact moment. This is a fairy tale where
right.
she is magically consenting and he is magically responding.
And it's also, okay, so fairy tales dive deep into archetypal kind of stories, okay? That's the whole idea. They're trying to distill some kind of deep level truth into something approximating a very long format parable, perhaps. All right, so why does the prince kiss the sleeping Snow White? Well, on a psychological level, it's because we are all asleep to some degree until we meet the one who will be our partner and companion and we can count on. Because when you are in a relationship with someone, okay, and you know, if folks out there, if you think we're going too deep, let's try it, okay? If you're in a relationship with someone and when you get in that relationship, they're going to realize things about you that you did not know about yourself. You do things, folks out there, you do things that are annoying. I do things that are annoying. Jonas does things that are annoying. And we have flaws. We have things that we do that we should not. And our significant other, in the best form of a relationship, calls that out and brings us out of our slumber, brings us out of our sleep, and we are put into the opportunity to reach our maximum potential with a forever friend, a forever companion who's at our side and will let us know when we are right and when we are wrong and will lift us up to the best heights. The prince kissing the sleeping Snow White somehow represents the idea that you have come out of, come out of a spell, come out of a deep slumber, and now you can be maximally aware of the world around you. That's my take on it.
I think that is firmly a tangent, but I appreciate the absolute truth of what you've just said.
I'm trying here, folks. I'm trying to give you, I think, what was going on, and partly, I think why these stories from more than a century past, why they are based on such kinds of levels of truth, is that today you get on a word processor and you write a story out. And if you make a mistake, you just delete it and you keep writing and you write and you write and you write and you save it. None of that is true 100 years ago. The difficulty in writing a story, to put pen to paper and then paper to text, was immensely more difficult. And the farther back in history you go, the more difficult it is. And so I think that the people who were writing these kinds of stories, in this case it's the Grimms, but the people who were taking the effort to make these kinds of stories, which then, by the way, also had tremendous resonance with the population. And you have to think about, well, why did it do that? But the people who were doing these things, they were very serious about what they were doing, because it was not an easy endeavor to get into the industry of writing. It was prohibitively difficult. Jonas, am I weird? Am I off on this?
No, you're absolutely correct. They're folk tales, and a lot of them are oral history. In fact, actual written tales are an oddity for that day. And the fact that Grimm, the brothers Grimm, came and wrote out all of these tales, and guess what? There were revisions there, and there were things that were changed. But at the same time, those core elements have to be evocative to the audience, especially when we're talking about oral storytelling, not written word storytelling. There was no definitive edition of Snow White because everyone had their own version, because the stronger elements have to survive. In a lot of ways, when you get into the comic books, into the comic book industry, there are the distilled versions of these superheroes that make it to the masses. Whereas some of the details, we talk about the Dork Age, about some of these times when, I don't know, Batman was super dark and he wasn't really Batman. It was actually Azrael, that only certain people know about. If you're not really in the tale, the higher elements, the more evocative elements make it to the surface. With oral history and orally transmitted, oh man, that sounds horrible. With orally communicated folk tales, only the strong elements survive.
Jonas, you have made a fantastic point, because these stories, for those who are wondering, well, how did they become so symbolically, deep? How do they have this kind of foundation laid underneath them? You're exactly right. They're transmitted in mass, at scale, over a very long period of time, from people who are editing them each time they go. And then the response of the audience, that is the mechanism by which the story is altered for the future. And then it's also competing against the other storytellers of the day and how they are presenting the story. And then all of that probably gets culminated into what was at the time the best possible version of all of those various storytellers, all trying to relay some kind of truth. And all of the, the thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of listeners who had listened across the span of time, all distilled into the story. And then Walt Disney takes it and tries to turn it into a magnificent first ever animated movie. And so
first cel-shaded animated movie. There is technically, I believe, a Turkish film that was the first animated film. So,
but so I think that what we have just discussed is a little deeper than Rachel Zegler is considering, perhaps. I think that's fair to say. Let's read the rest of the article now, and we'll give our take on this. Okay, so we know what she said. And we know that she sort of talked about or joked about the idea that the prince might not even be there. Okay. Zegler revealed what the film is really about. It's an inner journey that she goes on to find her true self, and she meets a lot of people along the way that make the journey really incredible. Zegler, alongside Gal Gadot, who plays the evil queen in the upcoming film, previously informed Variety that Zegler's Snow White would not be rescued by the prince. We've got all that. We understand all that. But I guess, here's the thing. It just keeps going, Jonas. We could go through this article. I'm not going to, folks. I want you to click on the link in the description down below. Read all of this. I guess what I'm trying to show you is by scrolling through all of it, she has made a tremendous number of statements.
Yes, she has.
Disparaging the first film. Why is this a mistake, Jonas?
Because the film is great. And Disney, even if we just talk from a corporate standpoint, Disney has invested a lot of money into maintaining this particular brand, this particular IP. There is a Snow White roller coaster at Walt Disney World right now. I think there's one at Disneyland. Is there one at Disneyland? I don't know.
Well, there's an attraction in Disneyland. It's a dark ride, not the coaster. But
right. But the point is that they have put a lot of money and time into that original 1937. Their origin story as a company is invested in that 1937 film. That film will continue to be marketed for another 100 years, as it has shown that it is a timeless film. For her to get very comfortable on the D23 red carpet or whatever that is that she's on and be like, oh yeah, we all agree that old one stinks, don't we? I don't think she's reading the room well. I think she's a little too comfortable, and whoever prepped her on discussing that film probably didn't deliver to her the nuance that she is talking to an audience that treasures that original fairy tale.
I had not thought of that, Jonas. The irony of giving these statements at D23, the gathering of the biggest Disney fans in the world. Not at all a wise place to do this.
And if I can add, she's very sure of herself that all of these,
as we all were when we were young. Perhaps
right.
By 22 we were figuring out that we were not quite so right, but
right.
There was a point where we thought we knew exactly how everything worked.
Right. And there's some indications here that, okay, the prince is going to be diminished. We've always joked about how the Disney princesses are not fully fleshed out as people. I mean, really, they barely even drew a face on the prince from the Snow White movie. You can tell they put all of this work into Snow White, and they were like, I guess we have to have this on the screen. I don't want to accuse the animators who have probably passed away on Snow White of anything, but if anybody got rotoscoped, it was most likely that prince. He's just there. He is set dressing. He is a prop to get them to that final ending where they show the castle in the clouds.
Right.
He is the most shallow form of a prince. We don't get a good one until Prince Philip in Sleeping Beauty, which all right, here's your great masculine prince.
It needs to be said too that Snow White, the original film, is mostly about proper and improper femininity. And so that is a plenty big enough theme. And then at the end, they tack on the prince, and so be it. I guess one of the things I'm thinking about is just the plethora of mistakes that have been made along the way. And then I have an interesting question for you to circle back to the Barbie issue that we brought up earlier. So if you think about all the mistakes here, you've got this young woman, plus you have Wonder Woman herself out there disparaging the original film upon which much of your company is built. In doing so, you're literally attacking the legacy of the man himself, Walt, because Snow White may be, along with Disneyland and Disney World, it may be his crowning achievement. So you are attacking the man that the company is named for and whose identity seems to be a major part of the company's identity, or at least it was until recently. On top of that, then you have also the issue of creating this uh, battle of the sexes again, let's say. So the battle of the sexes again, because now we're going to call Prince Charming these disparaging things, and we could get rid of the prince and all of that. And then you add on to that Disney is making these huge mistakes where, in order to be inclusive of people who have dwarfism, they're excluding people who have dwarfism. So you're not allowed to see people who have dwarfism because that makes people with dwarfism feel better about their dwarfism. I don't think that's necessarily true at all. I think, in fact, that's clearly the opposite. But it just seems to me that, and we could go on and on, the costumes that we have seen for this movie are, I mean, they are Halloween store bad, right? So,
they don't. There's nothing about this current production that seems to be impressive yet, and it hasn't shown anything that looks like it is telling something new about the story, and it doesn't seem like it's respectful of the story. A lot of these films, when they make them, they're trying to promise you, no, it'll make you feel exactly like you felt when you watched the original. But to say, well, first of all, Snow White is not white, which is not a huge deal, really, but at the same time, in the current context of the cultural discussion, it brings to mind some of the more cynical moves that they've made as far as race goes, and marketing specifically based on race, and maybe trying to shame part of the audience. So, there is an aspect there that reminds people of previous films where they've maybe made an unnecessary race swap and also tried to shame the audience for saying, was that the best move? There's no comment on the quality of the actresses. I think that they have the talent to say the lines and do the things and be charming when someone else tells them all of the words they have to say.
It's also odd, Jonas, because the name of this hero, this princess, is Snow White. By virtue of her name, like, you don't even just go out and find somebody who is quote unquote white, whatever that might mean. You don't go find somebody who is of a primarily European descent. That is insufficient, it seems to me. This is a character whose defining trait that gives her name, like, she doesn't even have a name. Her name is based on her skin color. And her skin color is so white that she's called Snow White. So it would seem to me that when you're trying to cast someone, you need to find someone who has very pale skin and is still attractive. I mean, so all of this is just odd. Like, it's not good enough to just find somebody who's white.
Right.
You got to find somebody who is really pale.
Any more than it would be odd to say cast what is I'm not going to name the actor to Shaun White as Black Panther. It's kind of essential that you have someone of at least these cursory definitions before you consider talent, which talent is very important when casting a major motion picture.
Right. It would be like casting Roots again. So you want to redo the movie Roots, and you exclusively cast Japanese people. It just doesn't make sense.
Lenny James, the fantastic actor that I personally think they need to make him the next Professor X, or casting him as Merida in the Brave live action remake coming forward.
Who knows? Maybe that could work. But Jonas, so let me bring this back to Barbie, though, which the audience loves, as we've already said. But here's the thing that I'm wondering, and I don't know how much of a long shot this is. Snow White, not in a great position, you would think, from a marketing standpoint. In fact, I would say this is dumpster fire level. But what if this is appealing to those who liked Barbie? What if there's some segment of women out there who are now keyed in on entertainment that dismisses the prince as being a stalker, and they're sick of that kind of a trope, and they've decided that the original Snow White is that, and therefore they're going to support this new Snow White? Do you think there's a demo out there that this is playing well to, and is it big enough to lift this film up in a way that we don't yet foresee?
If they have threaded that needle, then there is a well of talent at the Disney company that they have ignored for, I would say, the better part of a year right now, and they need to boost those people up. As much as I'm not a fan of that movie, it made $1 billion, and if they can somehow put the stamp on it and say, yes, this is the next Barbie. Disney needs to do that. That's their financial responsibility to their shareholders, that they need to make $1 billion. As much as I am not a fan of that particular film, if they can somehow tap into that energy, which also, by the way, appeal to conservative women somehow in ways that maybe are a little confusing to us out here, I think they're missing the mark there. I haven't seen a conservative person, and that is part of the demographic they need to appeal to get to that $1 billion number. Then that audience right now is being very quiet. They seem to be offending that audience more than anything else. Also, Barbie and the marketing to Barbie, they played those cards very close to the chest and did not make it apparent that there was anything divisive in that film before it came out. So, no, I don't see Snow White making $1 billion. I don't see this being the kind of film that rescues the Walt Disney Company's current box office fortunes.
Jonas, I have a new term, I think, for this marketing strategy of taking something that could be divisive and wrapping it in, this girly kind of thing that Barbie did so successfully. I'm waiting to see, will they try it with the Marvels? Will they try it with Snow White? But tell me what you think about this term. What do you think about the idea that when filmmakers do that, they are pink washing it? What do you think?
I like that. I think there's probably something a little bit more biting that we could come up with, but maybe we can see that in the comments today.
We'll go for it, folks. Let us know down in the comments.
That one.
Do you like pink washing? Is that what Hollywood is up to with Barbie and with the rest of this stuff?
This is this is the part where the narrator clip comes in and says, they couldn't come up with a better name.
Well, Jonas, while we're waiting on those comments, let's take a look at our cues from you from last week.
Am I in a cues for you video? I have wanted to do one of these for months. Yes.
All right. Well, in that case, Jonas, be so kind as to read these and I'll give my response.
Rod Thunderheart. I've been thinking, if Apple considered buying out Disney, wouldn't they want to get a look at their accounting books? Yes, they would. I mean, it's clear Disney is already hiding some shady stuff. I don't know. I think it's not unlike Comcast. They want to just watch Disney burn until it's ridiculously cheap, and they probably just want the library of movies. Yes. If Apple bought Disney without looking into their books, that would be criminal. It would be as in hyperbolically criminal. They do have a responsibility to their shareholders to make sure that there's not anything in there that would sink the company. If you buy a company that is liable, say under a civil suit or something like that, you are taking on the consequences of that civil suit. I also think the consequences for Apple are pretty low, unless the purchase price of Disney is greater than whatever the settlement of the lawsuit would be. I don't think they're in that area, though. So they've got enough money that if they wanted to buy if they wanted to buy Disney, they're fine from that front. The regulatory environment is probably going to be the greater issue there.
Good points all. And Rod, I would say that if you are wanting someone to come in and look at Disney's books, we'll be covering this soon. The state of Florida seems to be heading in that direction. So stay tuned.
Yes, they are. Coach O'Dragon, after hearing the Warner Brothers Warner Brothers earnings call, which excited to hear that Hogwarts Legacy will officially be coming to the Switch this November, just in time for the holidays, as mentioned, which was delayed about 2 times, I recall, which kind of was disappointing to hear when it got delayed and pushed back from its July release, but I never gave up. I would say,
well, I'm just excited as well. I think Hogwarts Legacy is in the top 10 all-time selling games, and it did it without the highest selling ever console, which is the Switch. So I think this is all fantastic for the Harry Potter franchise.
Yeah, and if anyone from my audience is over here wanting to know about the content rating on Hogwarts Legacy for the Switch, there is a character that you probably need to understand more about that keeps coming up in the main quest line. She cannot be avoided, or he cannot be avoided. I hope you understand my confusion there as to how to refer to this person.
Probably wasn't originally designed that way based on what we've seen. So.
Yeah, it's a little weird, but I got to say that you may not want to hand that to a small child if they are confused about such issues. Vixaris, it's nice to see all these Disney park upgrades and expansions like Frozen and Zootopia. When will they actually do something, even repairs at the park? They can't have taken away with a whim of foreign government. So the upgrades that you have mentioned are all in the Chinese parks, Hong Kong and Shanghai. Is that correct, Pro?
Yes, that's exactly right.
And Epcot has been under repair for 6 years now. It has been a construction zone, an annoying construction zone, because there are no straight paths from the front of the park to where all the rides are right now.
And simultaneous, the amount of money that Disney makes back from the Chinese parks versus Walt Disney World is minuscule. Disney makes extremely, extremely little from the Chinese parks, if anything at all. I mean, they made the past few years, it's been all losses. And yet they receive these kinds of things, and Disney World itself is slow walked in terms of any kind of progress. And in terms of Epcot, I think we have significantly stepped back in terms of what the product is there. The park is far less than it once was.
Agreed. Space Dave 2000. Mickey View's recent video theorizes that if Disney got split up, the parks division might be separated off from the entertainment division and be self-sufficient with a content deal locked in. If this happened, would this free up the parks to be competitive and magical again? Or would it be the same old catering to the ultra-rich and pixie dusters? Ooh, those are, that's a complicated issue.
It would depend on the leadership of the new company. So whatever Disney A or Disney B, were to become, whoever was in charge, the leadership over the parks division, they would make the decisions as to, how everything would be carried out. And so we just don't know, because we don't know the personalities that would be over it. I would also say that, Iger was a little bit haughty, shall we say, in the earnings call when he got asked this question about splitting up the parks. And then the person who asked the question came out and put out in great detail in one of the major publications exactly how this could be done and the arguments thereof. And it was covered on the Valiant Renegade channel on the live stream from this past Sunday. So folks, go check it out. It's in the last third if you'd like to hear what we had to say about this in depth. And but it's fascinating.
If you want to hear me tell everyone why I think that the people from Moffat-Nathanson don't quite understand what they're talking about here, because of the unique way in which the Walt Disney Company operates.
It would highly disrupt the cyclical nature of the promotions and how all of this works in terms of driving people to the parks and the parks driving people to the media to consume it, and then that drives it back. So anyway.
Yep. The Skeptic Tank. Amid the strikes, can we do anything we can do to further the entertainment endeavor beyond resorting to our respective media archives, as appealing such would be? Is there a way for us common folk to produce a Blair Witch inspired effort? Absolutely, there's a way to do it. If you have got the creative juices to make something that rivals the Walt Disney Company, the internet is democratized. Has democratized entertainment in a way that something could come out on YouTube, or some guy out in North Carolina could write a song that rockets to the top of the iTunes charts, and be the biggest act on the planet, at least for a little while. So yeah, if you want to make something fantastic, do it. Also, if you have something fantastic in you that you want to make, regardless of the Disney Company situation, you should do it.
That's right. And Lester, I believe that we are at the dawn of a significant shift in terms of who makes the media that we consume. So I think that as artificial intelligence gains more and more power, that it will actually be doing a significant amount of the programming that programmers today do. And while that's no good for programmers, it will open up many new avenues of creativity for people who want to make their own video games, or they want to make their own songs. It'll be nice for those people to be able to, give instructions to the computer on what they would like to have outputted, and then that be made into reality. And that would be just fantastic. We'll see how it all plays out. But I do think that decades from now, the idea of a mainstream media or mainstream press is going to be, far different than it is today. And I think that they have done it to themselves in regards to diminishing their power. All right. Well, that is a wrap on a video for today that we think is, we just thought this was great. Jonas, did you have a good time?
Oh, absolutely. I am especially pleased that I got to do a Cues from You video.
Well, and we enjoy getting all these questions from our members. Folks, if you'd like to participate in sending in Cues from You, we read these once a week in a dedicated video, just such as this. And it's for members in that tier 2 and above level. So if you'd like to do it, we are happy to answer your questions each and every week. Now, folks, it's time for your comments. Drop a comment down below and let us know How did we do on the topic of Snow White and the 7 dirty dwarfs? Let us know and tell us what you think about Rachel Zegler. Were we too kind? Were we too harsh? Give us the feedback we so desire. And folks, don't forget that if you would like to become a member of the channel, it's that little join button. You click it. It is the price of a soda per month. You get access to all kinds of exclusives like the full entire archives for the Pro Show and exclusive member-only videos, plus emojis and way, way more. Jonas, where can people find you on this great, big, beautiful web?
Well, you can find me here on the Pro Show on Thursdays, 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We usually go a little bit over because there's just too much to talk about. Also, I'm an investigative reporter for That Park Place. I'm on Twitter. I refuse to call it the other one, at Jonas J. Campbell. And I also have a YouTube channel where I like to go through all of the content on that, especially the stuff that's aimed at children that might be hiding interesting ideologies that maybe they're trying to get past parents. So check that out.
All right, folks, make sure to check out Jonas. And please don't forget out there that you all are the electricity that drives all of this. Millions and millions of views for this little baby channel, only 8 months old, just getting started. What's confounding many in the media out there, they don't know how we're doing this, but the answer is you. So wherever you are, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.
Oh.
What are you doing?
Well, you see, I wanted to get some inside scoops on Disney and their different corporations, if you know what I mean. So I figured by looking into this fistbowl and sucking it randomly with my own energy that I pay for, you paid for, I could do the whole experience where you can be a master and spy on your targets.
You're an idiot. If you want to get the inside scoop on Disney or even other media organizations, you should check out thatparkplace.com and subscribe to WDW Pro's YouTube channel. That'd be way easier, more accurate, and less dumb.
Are you saying I won't get accurate information this way?
No, you can't.
Who'd have think?